JD Vance has made it painfully clear that his only real loyalty is to himself, his ambition, his image, and his desperate climb to power. Everything he does seems to revolve around advancing the career of JD Vance, no matter who he has to betray or what values he has to discard along the way. Sure, on paper, his shameless self-promotion paid off. He's managed to become the Vice President of the United States, guys. So let's be honest, though, at the same time, that the title does come with a heavy price. You know, he's chained himself to Donald Trump, a man whose toxic influence corrodes anyone who gets too close. To get to where he is, Vance sold out his principles, his integrity, and even his family. And now that betrayal is starting to catch up with him, guys. According to new reports, a major scandal is erupting in his marriage, right on the heels of Vance's whilst he was publicly attacking his own wife. It's pathetic and predictable pattern. Someone who abandons everyone who helped him rise eventually finds himself alone. That's how it goes. We'll break down the ugly details of Vance's recent hypocrisy and his latest round of lies about the government shutdown. But first, guys, if you appreciate independent voices willing to call out this kind of political rot, make sure to subscribe and like. It really does help us continue exposing the truth. Bit of a flow now, part 2, bruv. Let's start with 2 crucial points about this government shutdown. First, this could not be more obvious, guys. The blame lies squarely with Donald Trump and the Republican Party. For a month now, the country has been dealing with chaos of their making. These are the same people who bragged after the 2024 elections about winning a so-called historical mandate, claiming that America had swung decisively in their favor, that the culture had shifted and that conservative values were now dominant. It was all a lie. One more self-serving fantasy sold by Trump and his enablers. The truth is, now that they've seized power, they've proven just how powerless and unpopular they really are. Trump is weak, he's a floundering leader, and his party's cruel. Outdated policies and rejected by most Americans, guys. The second point is that the disgusting, dishonest narrative Republicans are using to defend the shutdown and their attacks on food assistance programs, it's all obvious to see. They've been pushing the ridiculous claim that people on SNAP, families struggling to make ends meet, are wasting taxpayers' dollars on cookies and soda. It's an ugly talking point meant to shame the poor. That's all. The reality is simple. No one should be demonized for wanting a small treat when billionaires and politicians waste billions on vanity projects and foreign handouts. And yes, Trump's, endless luxury and trips, golf trips. That's the real drain on taxpayers, guys. Not a struggling family, buying a pack of Oreos. But JD Vance, ever the opportunist, is right there parroting these lies with his usual smug insincerity. His hypocrisy runs so deep it's starting to corrode his own life. Even former press house secretary Jen Psaki has pointed out how deceitful, power-hungry behavior is becoming a serious problem for his own wife.
Kelly Meyer with News Nation, and my dad is a pilot, so thank you for what you're doing to keep this guy safe. I wanted to ask you, I know you said that you're going to talk with folks on Capitol Hill after they open the government back up. If this keeps going on, would you consider getting everyone together like you did before the shutdown here at the White House to talk? And just quickly on nuclear, does the new testing make the world less safe?
So I'm not going to answer. I've answered all the questions about nuclear testing that I'm going to answer. I want to talk about the government shutdown here, and I'd like to focus the questions there. But to your point, look, I've never said we're not going to talk to congressional Democrats until they reopen the government. What I've said is we are not going to give in on policy demands under the threat of hostage taking. I mean, if any moderate Democrat or any Democrat period from the United States Senate wants to come over, they're welcome to walk into these doors in an hour. I'm happy to talk to them about how to end the government shutdown, but it's actually very simple because there's a clean CR, as you heard from everybody, that would reopen the government. What we're also saying is that we're not going to allow anybody, Democrat or Republican, to effectively threaten any policy demand and to place that upon reopening the government.
I don't know much about Usha Vance's private emotions, guys, though whenever she appears publicly, she's often seemed drained, distant and frustrated. But let's be clear, she chose this. She willingly attached herself to J.D. Vance, by extension, to the Trump circus as well, that he now proudly serves. There's no room for sympathy, in my opinion, when someone knowingly signs up for a toxic machine built on lies, cruelty and ambition. If she's unhappy with the monster her husband has become, she has every right and every opportunity to simply walk away. Jen Psaki once half joked that Usha should blink twice if she needed rescuing. But honestly, why should the public bend over backwards to save someone who helped legitimize this mess? Usha Vance's, isn't, a passive victim. She's part of a system that sold out democracy integrity for political gain. While J.D. Vance publicly humiliates her, ridiculing her background for cheap applause, she remains complicit in his rise. And now that his cruelty is backfiring, it's clear that the rot at the heart of their marriage mirrors the rot at the heart of the Trump-Vance alliance, which is built on betrayal, hypocrisy, and a complete lack of humanity.
I think the little Manchurian candidate, J.D. Vance, wants to be president more than anything else.
Yeah.
I always wonder what's going on in the mind of his wife. Like, are you okay? Please blink 4 times.
Yes.
We'll come over here. We'll save you. And that he's willing to do anything to get there. And that your whole iteration you just outlined, I mean, he's scarier in certain ways.
He's smarter.
In some ways. And he's young.
Yeah. And ambitious.
And agile in the sense that he is a chameleon who makes himself into whatever he thinks the audience wants to hear from him. Now, what's also true, though, is J.D. Vance is not – he's in some ways goodish on paper if you like what he believes in. I don't know. But I don't know that he can take the whole movement with him.
No way.
I don't think so either.
There's no riz.
It's got no riz, right?
None.
And he just is a little odd.
Of course, J.D. Vance doesn't care who he betrays, humiliates or discards. That's his entire political brand. There's nothing authentic about the guy. No core beliefs, no moral compass. He's a hollow opportunist who reinvents himself depending on what audience he's trying to manipulate. That kind of cynical shape-shifting might work for a while, guys, in Trump's world of grifters and psychopaths, but eventually people recognize it for what it is, pure fakery. And that's exactly how the public now sees J.D. Vance as a phony, awkward pretender with no real convictions. The fact that he's even willing to publicly throw his own wife under the bus just to score cheap political points says everything about him. It exposes not only his personal cruelty, but also the ugly racist and undercurrent still thriving, which the MAGA movement he proudly represents. Vance's behaviour is a reminder that a man like him and the movement they serve can't be trusted with power, honesty or basic decency. His hollow mask of patriotism is just a cover for resentment and hate. As Representative Jasmine Crockett rightly pointed out, it's not just Vance wearing that mask, it's an entire movement built on deception, grievance and contempt for the truth.
Even though modern day policing was born out of slave patrols, when I was speaking with one of my friends who is a federal law enforcement officer, he told me that one of the things that he has observed is that the culture is created at the top. And when I think about it, it absolutely makes sense. If you have somebody at the top that will not tolerate the types of things that we're seeing, then maybe those under you won't do it. But we know that we have a racist at the top. He has called himself the head law enforcement agent in this country, and therefore everybody has decided that it is okay to take off their hoods and mask up as ICE agents. Now, we've talked about how they have hidden themselves, but again, it reminds me of the Klan. That is why I proposed the Clear ID Act, to make them identify themselves, because it is dangerous for law enforcement as well as individuals, because you don't know, especially with ICE going around and doing the things that thugs do. They're busting out windows, they're breaking into homes, they're breaking people's arms. This doesn't sound like law enforcement. It sounds like thuggery to me. But just like you can have somebody at the top that sets the tone for ugliness going down, you guys are blessed, because in the city of Chicago, you have a mayor. You have a mayor that has decided that he will not back down. He will not bend to this administration, and instead he will stand up for the people. You have a man of valor that is going up against a villain, and I think that we have to make sure, especially while we're in his city, that we recognize his leadership, because it is invaluable. Now, some people think that this is all about Chicago. But I want people to understand that this cancer is infecting us everywhere. And if you don't think that it can come to your city, well, I've got news for you. You see, we've been talking about the cruel and unusual punishment that is in violation of the 8th Amendment that is being handed out. And honestly, it's a spit in the face of every American that we have an actual convicted felon that feels aggrieved to the extent that he feels like he's owed hundreds of millions of dollars when people are literally dying under our watch. Recently, I just sent a letter, it looks like on October 22nd, to Kristi Noem. And one of the things that I laid out is that we have seen the most detainee deaths in ICE custody in a single year in decades, with 20 deaths in the last 9 months compared to 24 deaths in the prior 4 years. Now, this week, we learned that an individual who went to the Dallas ICE field office for a routine visit, meaning that they were doing things the quote-unquote right way, they were detained. They knew that this individual had diabetes and required insulin every 2 hours. Despite ICE having been told this, the individual was denied access to their medication for 8 days, resulting in hospitalization. There are some that say that we are making America great. But to me, it doesn't feel like greatness. It feels like grossness. That's right. And in fact, I want to ask a few questions, and it doesn't matter who answers them. Is it great or gross to go into people's houses and drag them out in the middle of the night?
Gross. Gross.
Is it great or gross to make people afraid to do something as simple as go to school?
Gross.
Is it great or gross to make hard-working people say, I am too scared to show up to my job?
Gross. Extremely gross.
Thank you so much to each and every one of you for your courage. Thank you so much for showing up. And Miss O, I want to tell you that I understand that your mother is being detained in El Paso. I did go and visit that facility. I want you to know that I am always on my job. I'll yield back.
There must be real accountability, guys, for the people responsible for the criminal and corruption action of this administration. Those who have abused their power, including ICE officials, complicit in mass arrests, inhumane detentions, they should face serious consequences. No one is above the law, and that includes the Trump-Vance regime and everyone who enabled its cruelty. You know, prison sentence and investigation aren't acts of vengeance. They're the bare minimum for restoring justice and rebuilding a system shattered by years of corruption and hate. You know, if accountability doesn't happen, the damage they're inflicting on democracy, the institution and countless families will only deepen. And as always, guys, please hit that subscribe button, leave a like and comment on this video. Stay connected, stay safe, and I'll see you on the next one.